Many beginners treat a worm bin like a biological garbage disposal. You throw in your potato peels, close the lid, and expect nature to do the rest. Then, out of nowhere, the system crashes. The worms stop eating, they start scaling the walls in a desperate mass escape, or you open the lid to find the entire colony dead. When this happens, the first instinct is to blame the diet. You wonder if you fed them too much citrus or the wrong kind of vegetable. But the invisible culprit is usually environmental temperature stress. We regulate our own temperatures effortlessly. We put on a sweater or step into the shade. A compost worm cannot regulate its microclimate at all. Long-term success relies on controlling the thermal environment those worms are trapped inside, regardless of how well you manage their diet. The engine driving most home composting setups is the red wiggler, scientifically known as Eisenia fetida. This animated thermometer shows us exactly where these workers thrive. Between 15 and 25 degrees Celsius is their golden zone. When the temperature stays within that bracket, the worms process waste and reproduce at their absolute maximum biological capacity. Watch what happens as the ambient temperature drops below 10 degrees. The worms enter a mandatory energy-saving mode. Their digestion slows to a crawl, and reproduction virtually stops. If the temperature continues to plummet and hits zero, the situation turns lethal. The worms themselves can endure brief periods of extreme cold, but if the physical bedding they live in freezes solid, they freeze with it. Because the colony slows down so dramatically as temperatures drop, beginners often dig through their winter bins, find immobile worms, and assume they failed. In reality, cold acts as a biological pause button. A slow winter bin is usually just a dormant one waiting for spring. While cold will put a worm farm to sleep, high heat will actively destroy it. Let's look back at our thermometer, this time tracking a rapid spike up to 30 degrees Celsius. At this temperature, the worms experience severe physiological stress. You'll see chaotic behavior as they attempt to flee the bin entirely. If the temperature pushes past 35 degrees, the biological activity flatlines. The heat rapidly depletes the available oxygen in the bedding, allowing harmful anaerobic bacteria to take over and overwhelm the system. You might assume this kind of lethal heat only happens if you leave the bin in direct sunlight on a summer day, but the primary source of this heat is often the food you're putting inside. Large, concentrated piles of green waste, like grass clippings or a heavy dump of vegetable peels, generate intense internal thermal energy as they break down. Dumping too much food into your bin creates a compost oven. The decaying matter literally bakes the trapped worms from the inside out. To prevent this, you have to treat every single feeding as a thermal event, not just a dietary one. Approaching the bin with this mindset changes your role entirely. You are an engineer designing a specialized microclimate. The foundation of that design is location. Placing your bin in constant shade with consistent airflow creates a critical buffer against sudden ambient temperature spikes. Materials like shredded cardboard and coconut core provide the bin's primary thermal insulation, shielding the colony from outside spikes while offering a stable habitat. That insulation only works correctly if the moisture is dialed in. You need the texture of a wrung-out sponge. This specific consistency maintains the thermal barrier while still allowing vital oxygen to flow through the material. Your feeding strategy needs to reflect this thermal logic. Chopping food into small pieces and spreading it thinly across the surface prevents localized decomposition from turning into lethal heat bombs. When extreme weather hits, you can deploy active seasonal buffers. Placing frozen water bottles near the outside of the bin helps during summer heat waves, while wrapping the bin in heavy cardboard jackets provides crucial insulation on freezing winter nights. Finally, you rely on the most accurate diagnostic tool available, behavioral observation. If the worms are tightly clustered in one corner or actively fleeing the surface, they are telling you exactly what the thermometer reads. A worm can easily survive a missed meal, but it cannot survive a broken climate. Treating your bin as a living thermal machine is the most reliable way to keep your colony thriving.